Hey guys, how you going? Hope you're all doing very well. This afternoon I'm going to be doing another movie review for you all. This movie is a horror film from the UK, English language, released in the year 2024, directed by Bruce Goodison, and this film is called Black Cab. So Black Cab is about a couple. They're having a lot of issues with their relationship that they're trying to fix. One evening they're out with a group of friends having dinner. When dinner finishes, they catch a cab home. The cab driver seems joyous to start with, but the closer they get to home, the more they realise there's more to this cab driver than they first thought, and now the evening is not going to end the way that they expected. And so what happens at that point on is something you're going to have to find out for yourself, because that's as far as I'm going with my synopsis. Now my thoughts on Black Cab. I didn't know exactly what to expect with this movie. When I saw the trailer I thought it looks decent, but the reason why I wanted to love it was that it was a British horror film and Nick Frost was in it. Nick Frost was in Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz. He's not a brilliant actor, but he has a lot of likeable qualities about his presence. And so I thought him being a lead in a horror film, I had to go and check it out. And so the trailer didn't really convince me that this is going to be brilliant, but I was hoping at least it would be something worth watching. But it pains me to say, as much as I wanted to love this film, this was actually quite mediocre, and it's one that I wouldn't recommend. The negatives are there, and they far outweigh the positives, which is something I'll go into a little bit later, but thankfully there were some positives. So it's not a complete train wreck. There are really impressive qualities as far as production is concerned. I thought as though there's a strong level of mystery to this film, so there's a lot of questions that beg answering, and I actually thought as though the cinematography and the atmosphere of this movie helped contribute to that level of mystery. It almost felt like an episode of Twin Peaks, where nothing is quite normal, nothing feels like it's really in a sense of reality, and so that gave a certain sense of claustrophobia. I thought the lonely stretch of highway was a really good setting. I thought the cab was a character of its own, because inside this cab I thought there were a lot of home truths coming through, and again, those questions that beg answering, I thought at least it prevented the movie from outstaying its welcome. So that's something that I can really appreciate. And also, Nick Frost's performance I thought was fantastic. He was a guy that was quite menacing, but at the same time very likeable. And so although he's playing a different style of character than what we're used to, he still has that likeable charisma that comes through. He's a very sympathetic individual. And so you want to know more about Nick Frost's character, and you want to know more about this couple, because something is tying them together, but you're not quite sure what it is. And so I thought that was definitely very intriguing, and it kept my attention for the majority of the film. Although there were negatives, I could overlook those negatives, because at least I wanted answers because of Nick Frost's performance. But unfortunately, that is where the positives stop, and this is where the negatives begin. The horror aspect of this movie just doesn't work. It is not very interesting. I thought as though it was very, very generic, and some of the special effects were quite laughable. And so it's not a scary film whatsoever, and when the movie's trying to scare you, because it doesn't work, it does become quite tedious and boring. So that was ultimately the biggest issue of the film. It bills itself as a horror film, but the horror aspects, they just don't have the confidence in them. There are a lot of cheap tricks that I just thought didn't really work. There aren't many jump scares, which is something that I can appreciate, but I just thought as though it looked silly. The horror aspects of this film just looked really bad, and I just couldn't get into that situation. And so when the questions, when the answers to these questions start coming about as well, I thought as though the conclusion was quite a letdown. It just felt like an anticlimax, and I thought as though Nick Frost's character, the way he transforms, I just thought to myself, it needed a better writing. That's basically how I can really sum this film up. It needed a better writer. As far as direction is concerned, there are some impressive qualities, but as far as the writing, the characters, I really didn't like the couple. I didn't really buy into their relationship. They just felt like two completely opposite individuals, and there was no real attempt that gave any sympathy towards them. So when you're sympathising for the guy that's supposed to be the bad guy and not the people who are falling under this bad guy's trap, there's ultimately an issue there. And so the horror aspect doesn't work, and because the majority of this film was banking itself on horror, I just thought as though that's the ultimate killer of this movie, and the fact that the writing really lets it down, the mystery just doesn't really have that impact that the movie really wants. And so it is a very forgettable horror film. It pains me to say I wanted to love it, but if I'm being honest, it is quite mediocre, and as a result of that, I'm going to give Black Cab 1.5 stars. Alright guys, that's it for my review. Hope you enjoyed it. Till next time, keep watching movies, and I'll see you later.